Welcome to Flash Tutorial Requested 6 Boolean Codes. I'm starting a new FLA, keeping the action script 3, and call this layer action script AS. I'm going to show you how to make Boolean expressions. Open up the Actions panel and type in this code. Type. It's an if statement, and we're going to start by explaining the Boolean AND function. You can see there's two AND signs here, and this AND function allows something to take place, and it can be anything. It can make something change size, it can be jump into another frame, it can be opening a movie clip. But to explain it, I'm just going to do a trace. So it starts off with if, that turns purple. Open bracket, that's the open bracket for the entire Boolean equation. There's the closed bracket for the Boolean equation. So if open bracket, 2 is less than equals to 3, close bracket. So that's the first condition. If 2 is less than 3, which we know it is, and two and signs, that means it's a Boolean function. There's a closed bracket after the 3. Now I have open bracket, and I'm saying 100 is greater than equals to 75, close bracket. So that's the second part of this equation. So if 2 is less than 3 and 100 is greater than 75, which say R, we're going to trace this statement. So there's the open curly bracket for my if, there's the closed curly bracket for my if, and I'm saying trace, T-R-A-C-E, that turns blue, open bracket, quotation, it is greater, quotation, close bracket, semicolon. So when I run this, I test my movie, there's nothing on the screen, but it said it is greater. And we know that to be true. Let's add another condition to this if, another and statement. So right here between these two brackets, these two closed brackets, click there and type in this. Type. So and, two more and signs, open bracket, 25 less than equals to 75, close bracket. So now I have to have these three conditions to be true, and they are. This is true statement, this is a true statement, this is a true statement. So when I test it, it's going to say in my output panel it's greater. Well, let's prove that it is actually testing that. Let's make this 100. Now this statement is not true, so for the AND to be true, all three conditions must be true. So this time we'll not get any statement in the output panel. No statements come up. So that is the AND function. Now let's put this back the way it was to 20 or something like that. Let's just 20, so this statement is true. And now let's do the OR statement. And the OR statement is done with a symbol called a pike. And there's the pike, what it looks like. And where you find that pike, I entered it twice. It's two things. I'm holding the shift down, and on the keyboard, just below the backspace, on a regular keyboard, just below the backspace, it's middle center, upper right. There's a backslash on the lowercase. The uppercase of that backslash is what's called the pike. So hold the shift down, hit the pike once, twice. That's the OR function. So let's hit it again here, twice. That's the OR function. Now, if any of these statements are true, it will trace this. Well, we know that they're all true, so it will make a trace no problem at all. There it is there. Let's make two of these statements false. Let's make this one false. Let's make this bigger than 3. So now this is a false statement. Let's make this a false statement. Let's make this 20. But this one is still true. So if this if 5 is less than 3, or 20 is greater than 75, which they're not, or 20 is less than 75, which it is. In this case, we'll get that it is greater. Okay? We might have been better off writing this is true, but I think you get the picture. Now the last thing we got to do now with these or statements and statements is if something is not true. So let's go back to these being ands for a minute. Not that they have to be, but this is the easier way for me to explain it. And let's make these true statements. This would have to be less than 3. This would have to be greater than 75. So now this is all true. And let's make this say this is true. And let's test this. And now all 3 statements should be true. And it should print it is true. Good. So now we want to do what's called the not. The not's an easy one. Let's do it in this function here. Another way of writing, we could write this. The not is the exclamation mark, which is the uppercase of the numeral 1, which is on the top left hand side of your keyboard. Shift uppercase 1, and it's exclamation mark. So now this is saying if 2 is less than 3, which it is, and 200 is greater than 75, which it is, and 20 is not equal to 75, which obviously it is, and we test this movie, and it says this is true. And let's prove it by, once more, by let's making this say 75 is not equal to 75. Now, this is not a true statement, so we shouldn't get that trace this time. And we don't get the trace. So that's the basics of the Boolean. So now let's see what else we could do with these. Now so far we've been using digits. So let's put my cursor there, put a couple enters, and I'm going to type in a couple of variables. Type. The first variable, var, is called num, capital NUM1, colon, number, NUMBER. If it turns blue, you have it spelt right, equals 1, semicolon. Copy it, paste it, change num1 to 2, make it 250, paste it again, make it num3, and change it to 750. Let's redo this equation using these variables. So let's say if num1 is less than num2, which it is, right? NUM2. If num1 is less than that, that's right, number 1 is. And num3, NUM3, is greater than num2. And num1 is not equal to 75. I just want to show you here how we can mix variables with digits. So now these are all true statements. Number 1 is less than number 2 because 1 is less than 250. Num3 is definitely greater than num2 because it's 750, the other one's 250. And num1 is only equal to 1, so therefore it is not equal to 75. Again, this will trace true. Let's test it out. Test. And it traces true. To prove that's working, let's change one of those parameters. And let's change the parameter here to make this statement here, these statements not true. Let's make number 3 only worth 150, making this false statement. Therefore, we should not make the trace. And we don't. Okay. Let's put this back to a 7. Now I'm not sure where you're going to use this, the persons that requested it, but you can see I can put variables in here. I can put many different things in here. So let's highlight this out. Let's comment this out. So / asterisk here, and down the bottom asterisk /. Now I want to make 3 movie clips. So go back to the main timeline, lock this layer, insert a layer, call it square 1, SQUARE 1. Let's put this action layer on top. Make sure you select frame 1 of that square 1. Pick up your rectangle tool and just draw a square, holding the shift down. Go up to modify. Oops. Pick up your selection tool, highlight it, go up to modify, convert it to a symbol, make sure a movie clip is selected, call it SQUARE1 underscore MC. Copy this, close this off. It's selected, open the properties panel, and here where the instance name is, paste in this instance name. You need an instance name because we're going to write code on it. And let's make this some even digits. And if you've got this chain link, see it's locked? If it's locked and you change one, both the height and width change. Lock that layer, insert a layer, call this one square 2, SQUARE2, select frame 1. Let's change the fill color here, make this a different color. Pick up the rectangle tool again, make a square, doesn't matter what size it is, there it is there. I'm making it a little bigger right now. Pick up your selection tool, highlight it, modify it, convert it to a symbol, make sure movie clip is selected, it should be SQUARE2 underscore MC, same procedure. Copy this, because we're going to write code on it, and make sure the properties panel is open, make sure you have it selected, there it is, square 2 movie clip, and paste it in here. And while it's selected, again making sure this chain is locked, let's make this 75, this square, and when I hit enter, both parameters change. I want to make one more square, so lock that layer, select square 2 layer, insert a layer square 3, and let's pick up a bluish fill. Rectangle tool, shift down, make a square, it doesn't matter what size because we're going to change it over here. Highlight it, modify, convert to a symbol, SQUARE3 underscore MC, SQU. Copy this. You probably got the routine down. I got the right one selected, paste it in, and let's make this 100 square, so I have 3 squares progressively larger. Closing my properties panel, lock in all layers, select the frame 1 of the actions layer, open the actions panel, and below all this that we have highlighted out, commented out, put a few spaces and type this code. Now, you could have come here and copied this and paste it and then made a few minor changes, or you could start from scratch. So we'll start from scratch. It says if open bracket square 1 underscore MC period width. So I'm doing this to show you that we don't need have variables. We don't need numbers. We can use parameters of different symbols. In this case, the width of the squares. And because they're squares, I could have used the height just as well. And make sure that it's lowercase, and this will turn blue if it's spelt right. Less than equals square 2 underscore MC period width turns blue again, close bracket, 2 and signs, and, open bracket, square 3 underscore MC period width, you're getting the picture now, greater than equal signs, both of those signs. Square 2 underscore MC period with close bracket, close bracket. There's the open curly bracket for my if statement. Down here's the closed curly bracket for my if statement. And again, in between, I'm doing a trace. Trace turns blue. Open bracket, quotation, it is true, close quotation, close bracket, semicolon. And we know this is true. And what it's saying is, if the first square, which is the little yellow one, if that is smaller than square 2, which is the red one, and we know it is, and square 3, which is the big blue one, if it's greater than square 2, then all these will be true, and it will say it is true. Test movie, and it says here it is true. And let's prove that by changing one of the symbols here. Let's make this one here not true. Let's make this a greater than sign. Now this one will not be true, and we will not get that trace. Test my movie, test, and I do not get a trace proving that it is true. I'm just going to go back and clean that up. Put that back the way it was with a less than. There's one last thing that I want to do with this particular tutorial. Make sure all your layers are locked. Select the squares layer. Insert a layer. And call it ball, B-A-L-L. And I have green selected here in my fill, and I went to my rectangle tool and selected the oval tool, and I'm going to hold my shift down and make a green ball. Pick up my selection tool, highlight it, modify, convert it to a symbol, make sure movie clip is selected, and call it BALL, capital B, underscore MC. Copy that name. Open the properties panel, and indeed I have it selected. If not, make sure you select it and paste in that instance name, ball. Close the properties panel. Leave that balls layer unlocked. Select frame 1 of the actions panel and open the actions panel. Now, just like before, we're going to comment this out. So select right here / asterisk, and here asterisk /. Add a couple of enters and type in this code. Type. Now, this is fairly long, but now we're going to do what's the hit test. So it's if there's an open bracket for this whole entire statement, which goes way up to here, and there's the close bracket. We'll get that in a minute. So if turns purple, open bracket, ball underscore MC, capital B, that's the one we just made, period, hit test object, small h, capital T, capital O, turns blue if it's spelt right. Open bracket, square 1 underscore MC, that's the yellow square, close bracket, and there's 2 of those pikes, which we talked about, which is the uppercase of the /, which is just below the backspace on your keyboard. And this says if the ball movie clip hits the square 1, something's going to take place. Or, now here's where the or comes. And this is good because you can put this all in one line. Otherwise, you'd have to make a hit test for each of these separate squares in this case. The thing is, this would only work if the results that you want it to happen are the same for them all. So in our case, no matter which square I hit, it's going to say trace ball hits square. So if you have targets in your game and any of those targets return you to a certain spot or a certain movie clip or a certain frame, this would be the place to use these ORs. With my machine, once I get more than say 7 or 8 of these ORs in a row, my machine slows right down, and not when it's running the game, but it slows down while I'm still programming, and it takes a long time for me to get through it. So I limit myself to about 5 or 6 ORs. but that's up to you and I guess your machine. So now we're up to here with these 2 pikes. I would then copy that right to there and paste it. Click here and paste it. So now we're going to have the second part of our OR statement, which is ball1 underscore MC hit test object open bracket square. You have to change this to a 2 underscore MC. Make sure there are 2 close brackets here again. And there's the 2 pikes. Now if you copy the 2 pikes, you should have all this. You're here now. You should be here. If not, look at it and straighten it out. And paste it again. So there's the open bracket ball underscore MC period hit test object open bracket. Change this to a 3 square 3 underscore MC. And there should be 3 closed brackets here. There's your open curly bracket for your if statement. Down here is the closed curly bracket for my if statement. And I'm saying if any of these squares get hit by the ball, trace, turns blue, open bracket, quotation, ball hits a square, close quotation, close bracket, semicolon. So I'm just going to hold it here for a second so you can see it. Make sure you got to code it right. I'm looking up to here basically. And then moving it up to there. After the next pike, what you need to have. And there's the rest. So right now, if I look down at my stage, none of my balls are hitting the square. So if I do a test, I should have no trace. No trace because the ball's not hitting any of them. Now, you wouldn't be doing this. You'd have something moving around naturally, but I'm trying to keep these simple. So let's now hit the middle one. So now when I do my test, it says ball hit the square because it hit the red one. We want to make sure they all work. And if you have a game and make a game, you got to make sure all the possible combinations work. It's a pain sometimes, but you got to do that. So that one works. And let's do the blue. And the blue works. And again, let's make sure it doesn't work when it's down here. Whoops, I don't want that far down. When it's down here, let's make sure it doesn't work. And I get no trace. So, lock all my layers. I think that's enough for this video. There will be a follow-up tutorial, flash tutorial requested 7, Boolean yes, no. So if you plan on doing that, save this FLA. I hope you learned something from this tutorial, and I hope you use what you learn.